Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of RPG Maker VXACE, the tutorial series. I just wanted to say that I'm extremely impressed with the amount of interest my project has been getting from both RPG Maker forums and Reddit. I just wanted to say that I have launched an Indiegogo project. For those of you who want to contribute to what I'm doing financially, you can do so here via purchasing the perks on the right hand side. Some of these are all here just to make your donation worth every penny to you. So the last perk here worth $100 actually gives you the opportunity to have me work with you on your project privately and one-on-one, and one person has already claimed that. They are the first person to contribute. So if you want to contribute financially, you can do that. If of course you can't afford to or just don't want to, that's fine. Just contribute by watching my videos and maybe even spreading the word. That being said, moving on to the tutorial today. Our tutorial topic of the day is enemies. So today I will be teaching you how to edit or create your new enemies and how to set them up to be used in your game. Just a bit of a heads up, I am feeling a little under the weather today, so if my voice cracks out, I apologize in advance. So, moving on, first things first, I want to say this is pretty straightforward. The first, now that you've knocked out these first few tabs, that's 6 of them I'd say, the enemies tab and the troops tab are going to be quite simple for you guys. So, as before, there's the left hand column that has everything in the database that has come with the engine. So if you have installed your game correctly with your RTP and all that stuff, you should have this down the left hand side with all your pre-installed enemies. So we're going to work with the slimes here because that's your basic enemy. Sorry. And then we're just going to run into this. So you've got slime, but we're going to say these aren't slimes. This is his name, okay, slime. These are blobs. Bob the Blob. So this is Bob, and he's a blob. And blobs are different than slimes because blobs are slightly pink. Pinkish purple. The way I did that was I double clicked on the graphic here, and that's all you do, double click, and then you can change what kind of enemy you have here, but we are working with slimes of course, and there's so many interesting ones for you to use, so definitely check out this menu. All these many different creatures, there are tons of graphics for you to use in your project, and some of them are just awesome, so check out what's available to you and get your imagination going. I'm going to find the slime back, here we go, and Bob the Blob is a purple slime, purpley pink. Over here on the right hand side you have your maximum HP, your maximum MP, your attack defense, magic attack, magic defense, agility and luck. All the same statistics that you will see in the class tab of your actor. Sorry if I coughed in your ear. We have, I don't really want you to touch all these. This is probably 0 on yours. I don't want you to touch all these because until you've actually started playtesting your game, you won't really understand the dramatic effect of changing the attack or defense. So play your game. Place these enemies on the map once I've taught you how, and see if they're too easy or too hard, and then change these stats accordingly and test your game again and see what the differences are. I don't want you to just blindly change these because I think playing with the default settings will really give you a comfortable feel for how things really should be. So anyway, that being said, you can do what you like, but that's just my warning. The one thing we can adjust is the maximum MP, and I'll show you why. We're going to skip past the rewards, gold and drop item section for a second and go down to the action patterns. And the reason for that is because we can put the skills that this enemy will be using down here. This is where you choose his skills. So I'm going to double click here and I'll teach you how to add a skill. The skill bank that you have to choose from is the same one that you have for your actors. It's the skill tab up here. So everything you have in the skill tab database is in here. And you can choose whatever you like. We're going to pick shock just for easy decision making. Now the rating here, you can change the word rating, swap it out for favoritism. It's how the enemy feels about this attack. The rating is a 10 if he absolutely loves this attack, wants to use it over anything else. 10 is actually the highest you can go, and a rating of 1 means, well, I think he'd rather go home. It's like, go home, Blob, you're drunk. I don't want to use that attack. That's a 1. So don't use a 1 if you want to see this attack used often. If I leave it as a 5, you can see that it is the same rating as the basic attack that's already in there. You can see attack. And that means he doesn't really care which one he uses. It'll be pretty much a 50-50 coin toss. But, you know, this is a special attack. I'm going to say a 3. You want to see it once in a while, but you don't want to overwhelm the player with this shock attack. And you can set conditions as well. The default condition is always, and of course always means always. He can use the spell whenever he wants, as long as he has mana for it. And that's why we're going to mess with the MP stat in a bit, because you have to know a couple things about... We'll go back to that, but anyway. So the turn number is another condition we can use. And it looks a little bit overwhelming, because if you hover your mouse over the box, you get this crazy formula, and it looks like a lot, just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, a bunch of A's and B's and numbers. Like, you're trying to set numbers here. What are the letters for? So anyway, to simplify that for you, the first box is the first turn that your enemy can use it on. So if you want him to be able to use it on turn 5, then hey, I'm going to put a 5 in this box if you never want him to be able to use it before turn 5, okay? Then, every 2 turns after number 5, he can use it again. So we're trying to control exactly how often he can use this spell. So, if we want to absolutely control every time he uses this spell, let's set the shock to 10, so that when the conditions are right, he will absolutely use this move because it's his favorite, and when he can use it, he's going to use it. So the conditions say on turn 5 he can use this spell, and then every 2 turns after, that's what the second box is for, every 2 turns after he's going to use it again. So on turn 7 and turn 9, I hope you understand, every 2, 5, 6, 7, 7, 7, 8, 9, 9, every 2 turns after. Now, if you want him to use it, let's say, on turn 3, so he can't use it on turn 1, 2, but he's going to use it on turn 3, and then you never want him to use it after turn 3, so turn 3 is the only turn he can use it on, then you're going to put a 0 in this box, okay? 0 in the second box means never again, okay? If you put a 1 in this box, it means after turn 3, he can always use it again. The second box is how many turns in between can he use it again. So 3 plus 1 turn integers, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He can use it on all the turns after 3. If I put a 2, there's a missing turn in between. If I put a 3, there's 2 missing turns in between. I hope you understand that. If you don't understand that, let me know, and I'll absolutely, tell me in the comment section so that people can hit thumbs up if they also have the same question, and I'll deal with those questions one at a time. And that way, with the thumbs up, the popular questions will be risen to the top and be the top comments. Your condition can also be HP. This squiggly mark in the middle means between. So if I leave this 0, it is the same as always. So if the player is anywhere from 0 to 100% HP, or the creature, sorry, if the creature is 0 to 100% HP, then he can use this attack. But if we want to say he can only use this attack when he's feeling good, feeling healthy, maybe 70% health to 100% health, then we'd do something like this. You'd see this, 70% to 100%. Same thing goes with MP. I don't know why you would ever want to do this, because I mean, if he's got enough MP to use it, he might as well be able to use it, but whatever. If you think of a different reason, or some weird storyline plot, then you can do this, 70% or 50% or whatever you like, 50% to 100%, then you can use this ability. And then we have states. You can go in here and you can say maybe when he's poisoned, he's really aggravated, and he can use shock. You know, try to play with your story a little bit, and what the nature of these creatures are. Maybe when they're poisoned, they feel like they're really in danger, and suddenly they start using spells. You know, give it their all. Or you can use party level. Maybe this slime is really weak normally, but if your player has been grinding and is way higher level than he should be, you can catch him off guard and keep the game interesting for him so he's not just knocking crap around. And you can say if he's level 5 when he engages this slime, suddenly it starts using shock. You know, you can make a game interesting like that. And then there is an option to use switches, and I haven't talked about switches yet, so I'm not going to cover that, but I'll come back to it in a different episode. An episode just dedicated to switches. I'll show you a lot of things you can do with switches. Switches are going to be your best friend. Switches and variables, I promise. But not right now. We're not going to talk about them. So, I want to show you something. Going into the Skills tab, we'll take a look at Shock, and you can see that Shock has 0 MP cost. So we could totally use that infinitely on a slime that has no MP. But if Shock costs 4 MP, we'll put 4 in that MP cost blank. You want to give your enemy enough to use Shock at least once, but if we want Shock to be used twice before he runs out of mana, you can say 8 mana, or you can, 12 or even 16, depending on how many times you want him to be able to use Shock, okay? The other thing you have to pay attention to, just like your actor or your classes, you go to Shock and you look at the skill type. It is a special skill, okay? So you have to go back to your enemy, you have to go to the features, and if you didn't have Shock before, you've got to go into the features, you've got to go into skills, and you have to add the skill type special, okay? I mean, we showed that with equipping, right? Equip weapons, axe, that kind of thing with your classes and your heroes. You have to go in and you have to add a skill type special, okay? So that's all you have to do. And then now he can use Shock with whatever conditions and all that stuff that you gave him, okay? So I'm gonna delete this because we're gonna keep this monster simple, and I'm gonna delete that because we're gonna pretend I never added Shock. So I'm gonna come back up here to rewards and drop items, okay? Rewards is 5. His EXP is the amount of experience your party gains for defeating this creature. Now, you can adjust this according to over here in the classes. You have this EXP curve thing, and you're going to click the triple dots, and you can see how much experience you need to gain a level. So from level 1 to 2, you need 50 experience. So 50, that's 5 times 10. That means you would have to defeat 10 slimes to gain a level from killing slimes, because 5 times 10 is 50, and that's the experience gap from 1 to 2. So you can adjust that according to however you like. Then gold, if you don't want gold to be your currency, maybe you're using silver, or maybe you're using sand or shoes, maybe you're paying 5,000 shoes for a boat, whatever, that you'd probably need a boat to carry those shoes. But whatever your currency is, you can go to systems, you can change your currency here in the top. Right now it's set to G for gold, but you can have shoes. That is completely possible. Maybe you're trading children. That's your currency. Everybody trades children because there's a population boom in the district. But we're going to leave it as gold, okay? And yeah, so this is the amount of gold that's dropped. If you're going for some realism, maybe the slime, when it eats people, the gold doesn't dissolve and he's got gold in his slime. You can fish it out. Or if this is a mouse, maybe he doesn't carry gold and you can set that to 0, whatever. So anyway, whatever you like, you can set that to. Now dropping items is almost identical to when we did the treasure chest. I showed you in the weapons and armor video how to place items on the map as treasure chests. But if you didn't watch that episode, all you do is you click the bubble here and you open up the drop menu. You can pick anything from the database that you've already set up. Weapons, the same thing, right? Armor, same thing. The only difference between this and a treasure chest is you have probability. Now, if you don't know what probability is, I'm not going to teach you and you're out of luck. You're going to have to Google it. But all you need to know is that the higher this number is in the blank, the lower chance you have of getting the item. So if I say 1 in 2, that's a 50% chance. But if I say 1 in 4, that's a 25% chance. The higher number this is, the lower your chances of getting it. This is a 10% chance of getting it, 1 in 10 chances of getting the casual clothes from this creature, okay? So we can do that. We can do like a 1 in 2, 1 in 3 chance of getting a potion, and maybe there's an awesome sword or something, the Zephyrus Claw, a 1 in 20 chance of getting the Zephyrus Claw. You'd have to really grind these to get them. Okay, so you can do something like that, set it up however you like, but I'm just going to leave these as none. Okay, I'm trying to leave my example project as plain and default as possible, just so I don't confuse anyone when I'm bouncing around if you guys haven't done the same thing as me. So I was fiddling with this earlier. I'm actually going to pop back over here, sorry. Got a little bit distracted. I've got ADD, if any ADHD actually. If anybody hasn't already picked up on that, I kind of forget what I'm doing sometimes. So I got ahead of myself. Anyway, over here you have the Features tab, and this is exactly like the features that you have on your classes and actors. And I already showed you that when I added the special skill to our creature. I just want to draw attention to it once more. We can take a look at what's on this creature by default. You have the extra parameters of hit rating. You have to make sure there's a hit rating on your creature or he won't be able to hit the player ever. But remember that, if there's ever a creature you want to never be able to hit the player, you can either put a blind state on him or remove his hit rating. Now, extra parameter, this is evasion. He's got a 5% increase to evade, which is pretty impressive because he's a blob, but I'll tell you why. I've got story for that, man. I'll tell you exactly why he's got 5% evasion increase. An attacker element is physical, okay? So he's gonna swat you with his body, unless of course we've got shock. Then maybe we've got a new element in there and we can add that. And this right here means that he's weak to ice. If you remember, I'll edit this for you guys. This means that the element rate of ice is 200% stronger. So, you know, double. So, yeah. It's not saying that... so, if I put 100%, that would not mean... oh dear, I have to double check something for you guys. I just ran into... never mind. Forget what I'm saying here. But this just means 200% damage increase from ice. So I just... I'm going to come back to this in episode 5, okay? I gotta readdress that. But anyway, okay. So I'm going to take a quick commercial break because we're going to go into the Troops tab, and it's going to be a lot for me to cover at once, so I just want to take a break for myself and my voice, and you guys, you know, set your brain on pause for a second just so you can let everything sink in, take a break, and we'll be right back with the Troops tab, okay? I'll see you guys soon. Alright everybody, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your break. The thing I was freaking out about and not understanding and panicking about before I left for the commercial break was element rate. I wasn't sure if 200%, let's say, I double guessed myself. I wasn't sure if 100% meant that that was regular damage, or if it meant it did 100% more damage, extra damage. But then I realized that I can't enter a negative number in here. If I leave that, it goes to 0. So it meant that 0 is the negative, is the less damage. So 0 means 0 damage, 0%. And 100 means regular damage, and 200% means double damage. It's the star here that confused me, because this star means multiply, and so I wasn't sure if, you know, multiply by 100%. I don't know, I confused myself. You can go over this system 100 times and still be uneasy about certain things until you actually jump into the game and test them. So anyway, I do these tutorials in one take, and so it's natural for me to trip over myself. I'm glad I could correct that after just a quick break. So anyway, I think this is a much better way for me to do it too, is to instead of redoing an entire episode, is to take a commercial break and quickly figure things out that I'm unsure about and then come back and share them with you, rather than either redoing the episode or waiting until next episode to readdress issues. So I'm glad I thought of this, and you know, this show will evolve as we move along. So anyway, now we're going to jump into the Troops tab, and I was telling you before why we have an extra parameter evasion rate of increased dodge rate of 5%, and that's because these are sky blobs. They're not just regular blobs, they're sky blobs. They're in the sky. What I wanted to show you is in the Troops tab down the left hand side you have all the creatures that you saw in the Enemies tab, but the difference is you're going to see this star and a 3 or a star and a 2, and what that means is You don't need that. That's just in the name, and that doesn't do anything. But what that is indicating, that's a helpful way of taking notes and saying how many creatures you're going to encounter at a time with this troop setup. Now, think of troops as encounters. In this game, for the sake of explanation, you don't encounter enemies, you encounter troops. And troops are made up of enemies, okay? So in this troop, there are 3 blobs. Now, troops can be a combination of different kinds of enemies. They don't have to be all of the same unit, but in these they seem to be. It doesn't have to be this way, it's just a standard setup. So we're going to stick with that for now. You can click clear to remove all of our blobs, like so. You can select a unit from the list and add them. Right, I added a large snake. Or you can select one blob at a time and say remove to remove one instead of all of them. You can move these around by clicking on them and dragging them, and that's how they will look when you encounter them on the battle back. And you can click arrange to snap them back into default position. Those are what those buttons do. Now, auto name will give you this setup. So if I say Bob the Blob times 3 and I auto name it, it'll auto name it with Blob times 2 because that's the setup, and that's kind of nifty, you know. I like that. Let's see what happens when I add a bat and auto name. So it'll say Blob times 2 comma bat, and we see the combination that's available here. But we don't want that. We'll just do 3 blobs for now. And these are sky blobs, remember, so I'm going to throw them way up in the sky because I'm weird like that. Now, changing battle back, that's a lot of fun. So you can go in the left side. The left side is your foreground, and you can change the foreground to a meadow or lava, and you can see that it will always blend in with your background. Obviously, some setups look better than others, and you can change the background with the right bar. So factory, and I like how no matter how you set it up, it really does kind of, you know, it just kind of works, and I like that. So very good graphics design by RPG Maker VXACE and their team. Like I said, obviously some line up better than others, but for the most part you get a really nice connection. I like that a lot. We seem to be inside and outside. I don't even know. But anyway, let's find a nice ice cave. Yeah, ice maze. That's nice. I like that a lot. So we're going to set that up. Okay, so we got air blobs in an ice cave, sky blobs, and a bat. That's not there anymore. So 3. Going down to the, we've covered all this now, which was pretty straightforward. And there's a battle test. I'll click on the battle test to show you what kind of menu you get. You get to set up your character. Right now we only have one hero set up, and his friend Alec. But don't worry about it really. You're going to start with Bastion, and that's the character you want to test out. And so 3 blobs, you're like, maybe 3 blobs is a little bit more than Bastion can take. So we can go through the different axes or swords that we've allowed him to carry in the perks, or in, I said perks, but I meant features. He can have axes or swords. So you go to whatever weapon you want him to carry, and you can look at what those are, what the specs on those are in the weapons tab. You set up his shields and armor, leather bandana for his head, and a leather top for his body armor, accessories, maybe the War Guard's belt, and then it shows you what his current stats are going to be with all those equipment increased. You can choose what level he's going to be in. As you can see, as I go through the levels, his stats change right here. And yeah, so at level 1, with basically no equipment, we'll see what goes on at level 1, and then you click OK, and it will give you this quick battle test. Check this out. Yeah, so I can fight and I can attack these blobs, and this is, you know, the really crappy setup of, yeah, I mean, it's not awful, but this is what RPG Maker battles look like by default. Pretty lame. I don't like them. They're alright, but I mean, you really want to dress them up before you ever release like a real commercial game. So that was pretty easy, but that's good. I mean, if you're going to fight a lot of enemies, you don't want them to be too tricky, or your player will get frustrated and really irritated and he won't want to play. He'll put your game away if you make them too hard at the start. You just do regular mobs. Make your boss fights really tough and your regular battles pretty easy. That's a good rule of thumb. So we're going to get into battle events, and this is probably the most complicated part of making enemies. So I'm going to double click on here, and what we want to do with the battle event is just that. It's an event. It's something that happens. Anything that happens is an event. And these are battle events specifically. Now I haven't taught you about map events yet, and map events are going to be something you use a lot, but battle events are pretty much the same, except they happen in battle and they have battle conditions. Okay? Now you can do, like I said, pretty much anything with a battle event, but what we're going to do is have our main character Alec go, holy shit, a blob. Okay? So I want it to happen right at the start when the battle starts, not after you do a command. Okay? So right at the start he's going to go, holy shit, a blob. Okay? And how you get this box is you double click down here in the blanks, and we're going to go show text in tab 1, and in the text field we're going to go, holy shit, a blob. Okay? And maybe punctuate this. Okay. So, and we just want the background of this to be normal. You can go like dim background, transparent background, and position bottom, middle, whatever you want. Yeah, okay. And don't worry about the rest of this. You preview it, it's going to look like that. Okay, holy shit, a blob. And you can put a face in there, and that's what I like to do to add flavor. This is really basic stuff, okay guys? I'll go to Actor 4 in my case, and that's where we're going to find our Bastion portrait. And that's the portrait you choose. It helps you pick, you know, who's saying something. And you say, okay. Now, we have conditions that are set up here, and a span. Okay? Conditions, our default condition is turn number 0 when you enter something. If I didn't put anything in the box, our condition would be, our condition would be don't run. That's the default normally. And don't run means if the battle starts and the player doesn't run away at the beginning, then this happens. But we want it to say turn number 0, okay? So I'll go through all these for you quickly. This condition here is when the end of the turn, sorry, my brain's dying here, I'm a little bit sick, but anyway, when the end of a turn, so that means when the turn ends, obviously. So I don't want that. I don't want it to happen at the end of the turn. You want it right at the start of the battle, okay? Now, if you see, look over here, I know I'm jumping around a bit, but bear with me. This is the span box, and delete the word span in your mind and replace it with once every. So that'll help you understand. So instead of span battle, it's once every battle. So if I say when the turn ends, he'll say holy shit a blob once every battle. So he won't do it more than once in this battle. Just once, at the first time a turn ends, he'll go holy shit a blob, that battle. If I change this to turn, he'll say holy shit a blob at the end of every turn, once every turn. At the end of the turn, once every turn. And if I say once every moment, then every single second he's going holy shit a blob, holy shit a blob, holy shit a blob, okay? So once the end of the turn happens, he'll start doing that every moment, and you won't be able to do anything else. It's going to be really frustrating, unless you say, you know, I'll teach you stuff like that later. Anyway, so that's what span does, okay? Now the other one we can do, I'm going to switch this back to battle, the other stuff we can do is turn number. And turn number works the same way we did enemy skills, remember that? So this is the turn it happens in. We'll say it happens on turn 1, and then he says it again every 2 turns after that. So again on turn 3 and again on turn 5. But we don't want that. Turn 1, if I say turn 1, it's gonna happen after the player like chooses their skill, and once he goes to start attack he'll say holy shit a blob, which doesn't really work for us because I mean that means he's been staring at it for a couple seconds. He decides what he's gonna do, and only after he starts to swing his weapon does he go, oh shit, that's a blob, why am I here, what is happening, and where is my couch? This is not where I parked my car. But anyway, so if I say turn 0, what that does is that moves this to happen before the player even gets a chance to make a decision. So the battle starts, and then he's like, holy shit, a blob! Not just any blob, flying blobs, of course he's surprised. So yeah, that's how you use that. So I'll get rid of that. Then we can say enemy, and we can change which enemy. So maybe if blob 2 is 50% or below HP, he's hurt. Suddenly, the old timers of our character kicks in, and he forgets where he is, and he realizes where he is, and the blob's half dead, and he's like, holy shit, a blob! Why is the blob on my hands? Why is that blob all over my sword? Why do I have a sword? And just a spiraling downfall of questions that really lands your character in a retirement home. A low quality retirement home where his family doesn't love him, that kind of thing. If that hits close to home, I apologize, but I'm not sorry. Fake apologies are the best apologies. Anyway, actor click. If Bastion is below health, same scenario, all timers kick in. Bastion's missing both his arms, but his legs are intact. He realizes suddenly that this situation is bad, and he says, holy shit, a blob. That's how we could use actors. He's 50% health. Or a switch, and once again, switches are awesome. They're your best friend. If you could wear a condom and show your way to the switch, that's how we'd use switches, but we're not going to learn about switches today. Right now we're going to say when turn 0 happens, then we're going to do it, and it's only going to happen once per battle. Once per, not span, once per. That's how we're going to use this word. Okay? Holy shit, a blob. And it's said by Portrait Actor 4. Okay? And then you can say apply. Now there's tons more you can do with this, but we'll learn events or text or triggers and stuff like that in another tutorial. But now I'm going to actually show you how to place your enemy on a map. So I've already practiced, not practiced, but I shot this earlier and had to refilm the episode, so it's here already, but I'll delete that. There are 3 ways you can place an enemy on a map, okay? The first thing is, you can, by the way, this is the map we built together last episode. Yours might not look like this. I don't know what yours looks like, but if you saw my last episode, you know mine looks like this. This is the item we placed on the map, remember, the treasure chest. We're going to put our enemy right here by making sure we're on the event button, like we did with the items. We're going to right click on the square we want the enemy to show up, and we're going to say new event. We're going to pick a graphic for our slime. We're going to go down to Monsters 2, I believe. There's our slime. And, there's not a graphic for every monster. In fact, there's not a graphic for very many monsters at all. But there's a few. So I'm going to go with the slime, because that makes sense. And there's a couple things we can do here in this stuff. We can put conditions for this monster to show up, but I'm going to teach that in a different episode. So for right now, this monster's always going to be here. Over in the movement type, if you want your monster to wander around, you can say random. You can make it so he always moves constantly towards the player, but that you don't want that really. Not for this. I'll teach you how to use that more appropriately later. If you want it to stand still, you can say fixed. And if you want to choose how it walks around, you can say custom, and you can, go through all these and control a path that it walks around in. But we're going to say random, okay? Because it'll be nice. It'll be your standard RPG monster walking around. Now, this monster, if we want him to, if we want to have to walk up to him and press enter to start the battle, then we leave the trigger as action button. But if we want it to be when he touches us, like if you run into him or bump into him, then the battle starts, then we're going to say when player touch, okay? Now, also, if we do... The priority means layers. What layer is he on? If he's on the same layer as a character, that's the only layer that you can do an action button to trigger it, okay? It's the only layer. If he is above or below the character, you cannot use action, but you can use player touch. But for monsters, it makes most sense to put them on the same layer as the player. So we're going to go back to player touch on the same layer as the character. Okay? And you can choose how fast he walks around. Speed means, you know, when he decides to move, how fast can he move. Frequency determines how often he chooses to move. So on a normal frequency, he's going to take one step, he's going to wait a second. He's going to take another step, and then he's going to wait a second. He's going to take another step, and then he's going to wait a second. But if you put it on highest, he doesn't pause in between steps. Anything below highest, he does pause. And then speed is like how fast he moves when he doesn't pause, okay? So if you set this to faster, 4 times faster, and he's on a normal frequency, he's going to go boom, 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 boom. All sorts of stops there. If you turn this to highest and put this to normal, he's going to do like a constant movement, but it's going to be slower. And if you put both on fastest, he's going to just zipping all over the place, okay? You're not even going to be able to catch him. So I'm going to put both of those on normal. Actually, this is going to be times 2 slower. Okay. Now the last thing we have to do is we have to go over to the contents in this box here, and we're going to double click. And there's so much to learn here that I can't go through it all right now and describe to you what each button does and each function does. So we'll do it in different episodes, but just for the sake of this episode, go to tab 3, go to battle processing. That's the one you want. And we're going to say troops. See how this is a troop section designation. You can't encounter enemies, you can only encounter troops, and troops are comprised of enemies. So this is the one we had, blob 3. You have a drop down of all the other things that came with RPG Maker. We're going to go to blob 3. And you can designate with a variable, but we haven't learned anything about variables, so leave that blank. I'll teach you how to do that later. And then same as random encounter, leave that blank because I haven't showed you how to use random encounters yet. And then these last 2 boxes, we have a can escape and a continue even when loser. Can escape, you check that off if you can run away from this fight. You uncheck it if this is like a boss fight and you don't want them to be able to run away. And continue even when loser means like if you're fighting your buddy and it's just a dick measuring contest and you know, he beats you silly, he's got the bigger willy. He beat you silly with his willy, and his is bigger, so obviously he's not going to stab you while you're on the ground, he's just going to wave it in your face a little, and you're going to move on, shamed, but you're going to move on. So this is continue even when loser. You're a big loser, but you haven't lost, it's not game over. You know, maybe you can find one of those ads online that grows you 6 inches, I don't know what to tell you, but anyway. So we can escape from this fight. You don't continue when losing, because these are slimes, they're going to eat you. But, yeah, so okay. Now this shows up, and we're not going to do anything with this, okay? Actually, you know what we will do? I will teach you one more thing. If you win, so see the little @ arrow? These give you blanks to add effects, and they're under the colon situation. Colon situation. Colon situation. So if you win is this situation, we will put something here. If you win, go to tab 1, say, go to tab 2, sorry, and it is erase event, okay? And that will erase the monster. So if you kill it, if you win and kill it, it'll erase this monster from the map. That's all you have to do. If you lose, nothing happens because the game over command will take over itself, okay? So that's it. If you lose, you don't need to fill anything in. If you win, erase the event and clear it off the map. Okay? So we hit apply, and I'll show you what happens. I'll show you what we have. We've still got the starting position and our map. Hit play, and we'll test this project. So check this out. I'm on the map. There's our monster wandering around. I'm going to bump into him. And check that out. Our battle starts. Now look at our background. We've got a swirly manipulation of the map we were just on. That's what that is. It's a big swirled version of the map we were on. Holy shit, a blob! Our event comes up. You see that? And when I push enter, it clears away. And it won't happen again. I'll just spam here, and I'll win this fight. And you'll get to see our event erase. I'll just clear through this fight. Sorry, guys. Zip through here. Alright. So I was victorious, I got 15 experience. Remember, that's 5 experience for each mob killed. And 15 gold. That was 5 gold for each slime killed. And when I get out of here, look at this, the mob's gone because we erased it. You saw that, okay? Awesome. So I'm going to get out of this. Now, the reason the background blurred is because we need to specify a background for the map, okay? Each map has its own background, which makes sense. If you wander off this map and places look different, you'd want them to have their own background too. So it's specified by map, which is in the left-hand side here. When we made a new map, I named it testing map. I don't know what you named yours, but we're going to right-click on the map we're on. We're going to say map properties, and we're going to specify the battle back, which is right here. Click that box, and the colon's right here, and we build the battle back just like we did before, okay? Awesome. So this map's kind of deserty. We can go with the dirt. This works. I'm going to go with that one. That looks nice. And we're going to say grassland, or no, that doesn't work. Factory, demon castle, demonic world. What works for us? Clouds. That works. I like that. Or brick. No, clouds works better. Where did I see that? We're going to go with that. Okay. Now I'm going to show you something. We can do random encounters. That's the other way that we can make things show up here. And to do that, we go to encounters, we double click in the encounters section, and we specify the troops. Wait here, if you hover your mouse over it, says the value that affects the frequency at which this encounter item is employed. And that is a lot like, what's it called? Back when we were over here and you were setting your skills for your enemies, it's a lot like raiding. It's pretty much the same thing. What are the odds of that encounter taking place? So we're going to go back into properties here, and when I create a troop, which is the blob 3, we can say, what's the weight? 22 compared to another mob, right? That might only be, so that weight is 10. If I make a bat, its weight is 20, and we have a more, or 21, we have a more likely chance of running into the bat, right, than the blob. That's what weight does. But we only have blobs on this map. They're everywhere. They're flying blobs, just here and there and everywhere, wherever they want to be. What asshole blobs. Down in the bottom, there's a step average. This is how many steps you need to take before a blob comes out of absolutely nowhere and tears your face off, or just sits in your pocket, whatever the blob's feeling this morning. And yeah, so it's a lot like Pokemon when you're running around in the grass. So right now, the way we've got it set up, I'll show you. I'll delete the mob we built earlier. Right now I'm going to jump into this game. We've set the battle back now, so when we fight we will see that battle back appear. Watch this. I'm going to run around anywhere I go that contributes to the steps I take, and boom, out of nowhere, blobs coming from my pocket. And actually, I forgot to check off the battle back. My bad. But I'll show you the next time we set up a battle. One sec. So anyway, I don't need to go through this. You've seen me fight and kill one. So yeah, the reason the battle bag never showed up is because I forgot to check the checkbox. But we'll do it for this one because I have one more version to show you. I'm going to check it off and set up dirt with clouds. That's what we want. Okay. Cool. The last one I'm going to show you, we have regions. Okay. Click the region button, and you can set it just like tall grass would be. So let's say on my map I had tall grass in this area. I could take any one of these regions, doesn't matter, you can use 1 or 63. Regions have numbers just to differentiate from each other, and so you can specify them with events. So with region number 1, I'm going to build a bit of a block here, right in this space between these ponds. And then I'm going to go into properties on my map, and with this encounter right here that we have, I'm going to right click and I'm going to edit, and you can specify by region ID. Okay, so if I hold my box, valid when a non-zero value is entered, right? So the 0, these are different regions that can have this encounter. So we could have used a different region over here, maybe 3, and another region down here, and all those are possible to engage this type of mob. But if we leave it 0, it just ignores that box. This just gives us options to put them on more than one region. And in this particular case, we're only going to put him on region 1 because it's the only region we built. And these are regions, and there we go. So if we're running around on region 1, there are 30 steps that will set off this mob. Okay, so I'll show you. I'll jump in here. I've got a new game. My voice is cutting out because I'm sick. If I run around here all day long, I will never ever 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 encounter a mob. Not once, never. But if I jump in here to this region that we built that you can't see, there, boom. Check that out. Holy shit, a blob. That's what I've said. Anyway, that looks pretty cool now. We've made our game come a long way just by adding a battle back and putting those blobs on the surface. And yeah, already we're starting to see a bit of an RPG come together, right? I hope you agree. And yeah, that's all I have to teach you on this episode. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed the new format. Just a bit of a break with a commercial so I can take a break and so can you. And because I know 2 tabs is a lot to learn at once. And yeah, put your suggestions or criticisms or comments, anything you want to know, any questions you have in the comments section below. Give that a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much for watching.